Hi, Tricia here at Club Scrap with the Shoreline Remix page kit. So by remix, that means there already was a collection called Shoreline that we released in the past, and that one in particular disappeared so quickly. I think it was gone within about 2 weeks. So we're hoping we can keep this in stock just a little bit longer for you this time. And I will confess that I really mimicked almost exactly the layouts that I did in the original. However, we substituted with some different papers, and so I'm just going to do the video again to walk you through this specific collection. So if you have a Shoreline collection in front of you right now, make sure it's the remix, and if not, go back and search our instruction documents to find the original Shoreline to do that one if that's what you're holding. So just pay attention. This is the Shoreline Remix, and that'll be indicated on your packing list what the name of the collection really is, just to confirm for you. Same for the instructions as well. Okay, so as is usual, I've got my accordion pocket file here. This is what's going to keep us organized while we trim all of the papers required for 8 complete pages. The accordion pocket file has a lip on it that sits underneath my trimmer base, and gives me 4 vertical pockets in which to put all of the pieces. Now, if you don't have this yet, don't let that stop you from starting this workshop. Maintain 4 piles. You're just going to need a little bit of a larger workspace than I require. Now, we begin with the papers exclusively. I'm going to slide all these embellishments out of my way and just take the paper and let's sort it in the order that we'll be using it. We'll start with this wave print first. So you can identify the difference. This is the beach, or the shore print rather. This is the wave print. So take one wave print, put it face down on the trimmer, and then find one shore print. Put that face down on the trimmer. So we're kind of building our pile from the top to the bottom, and then we'll flip it over when we're done. Next, find the 2 teal. Now, this kit has some aqua paper in it. This is the teal. So look for the darker color and grab both of the sheets. There should be 2. It's a nice heavy cardstock. Then 1 ivory linen. So make sure it's got that real deep, it's almost like a burlap texture, an ivory linen. Just 1 of those. And I'm putting the texture side down. Then 1 of the aqua. That's the lighter. And 2 craft. And that's really pretty nice deep sand color here. Craft. For Cutaparts, those are usually on the bottom of the stack. Find the one that has all the strips on it. That'll go first. Again, face down. And then the other one that has tons of images on it, face down. Next, find the remaining ivory linen. Again, it's a nice, thick, heavy paper, and it would be hard to miss. Then another shore print. Now, this is the one that has the beach on it, the beach color, face down. The remaining aqua. The remaining wave, face down. The remaining 2 sand texture. It's got a lot of little fibers and stuff in it, very beautiful. And the 2 yellow. Take the entire stack, turn it back over to where we started at the top here with the wave print. I'm at page 1 of my instructions, and the first 2 pieces require some tearing before we do some trimming. So if you kind of look at this print, I'm going to tear from here to here, just kind of following this white foamy wave area. So I'll hold it vertically, and I'm going to pull the paper toward me. And what that does is reveals all the different fibrous layers of the paper. And the idea here is to kind of be a little willy-nilly with it. Perfect. Put this in pocket 1 and 2. And when you do that, do it at an angle, because the accordion pocket file is the same width as the paper. So I'll just do it like this. That way I can still see the number in the upper left corner of my file. Then I'm going to tear along this line here. Again, revealing a lot of nice visual texture here. Perfect. These 2 pieces now can also be placed in pocket 1 and 2. A little bit more tearing. We're going to tear away this beach. Keep a little bit of the color here, going all the way kind of down to where this brown color ends. So I'll start right about here. Notice that this beach is on my right, and I'm pulling that paper toward me, just going at an angle toward this spot right about here. Place this beach portion in pocket 3 and 4. And then the remaining piece with the straight edge on your left, put it in your trimmer. this is your first time trimming, just remember that inches are the lower set of numbers, centimeters are the top. I'll find 4 1/4. So first start at the hole number 4, go left 1 column to grow that number to 4 1/4, stabilize on the clear bar and slice. Then rotate the paper and trim at 11 1/4, 7 1/2. So again, 7, go left to find 7 1/2, 3 3/4. So 3 3/4. And now you've got 3 rectangles that are the same size for pocket 3 and 4. This other little scrappy piece, you can put that in pocket 7 and 8. And this remaining piece you trimmed off, pocket 3 and 4. For the next step, let's just make sure you take 1 sheet of the teal. There should be another one next to it. We'll trim 1 at a time. Our first cut is at 6. Stabilize on that clear bar every time, and always make sure your paper is nice and straight up at the top. And then after rotating, we'll cut at 8 and 4. 2 of these rectangles are placed in pocket 1 and 2, and the third one goes in 7 and 8. Our remaining piece, we're going to trim a little differently this time. Trim at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, and 3 3/4. Gather your 3 rectangles, and those all go in pocket 1 and 2. This little scrap here, that goes in 3 and 4. We're finding homes for all of this stuff. Now this next teal is cut a little differently. We'll start out at 10 1/4, 7 1/2. Notice that when I measure my paper, and this saves you a lot of time, let the handle go. It holds up on its own. Hopefully on yours it does as well. And then you use one hand, your right hand usually to pull and your left hand to push, and that way you can find your measurements more efficiently. We're looking for 7 1/2 and then 4. Now rotate this strip and cut at 10. 7 and 4. Gather the square and the 2 rectangles that are the same. All of 3 of those go in pocket 3 and 4. Again, pile. If I say pocket, I can also mean pile. And then this little rectangle here, we're going to trim that at 2 inches. So we're cutting it in half to make some little squares for pocket 7 and 8. Next strip here, we'll cut at 10 1/2 and 5 1/4. 2 larger rectangles here, pocket 5 and 6. Another little rectangle that we're going to cut in half. This time it's at 1 3/4. Even on a little piece like this, I do it the same way. I stabilize on the clear bar, and it'll cut easily at even a small measurement here. So pocket 5 and 6 on that pairing. And here on this next strip, this is 2 3/4 by 12 in case you've lost track. We're trimming at 9 1/4, 6 1/2, 3 1/4. There are 2 sets of shapes here that are the same, but they all 4 of these go in pocket 7 and 8, and then this last whole strip in 5 and 6. Moving on to the ivory linen now. First cut here will be at 10 1/2, and again, make sure you use one hand to push, one hand to pull. 10 1/2, 6 1/4. Rotate and trim at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. Gather the 2 rectangles you just created that are the same. Pocket 5 and 6. Pick up the next rectangle. We're going to shave an inch off of this. So let's cut this one at 5 1/4. This piece goes in pocket 5 and 6. And you've created what I believe to be our first scrap. Sorry to tell you, didn't use it. The next strip we'll cut at 6 1/4. And this piece goes in pocket 1 and 2. The other one in 3 and 4. And this last whole strip, 7 and 8. For the aqua, let's make a tiny little piece. We'll trim at 11 3/4. So that's almost to the 12, really close to the 12. Stabilize. And then we'll trim at 11. Then 10 1/4. And 6 1/4. Rotate, trim at 8 1/2. 4 1/4. Gather up the 2 rectangles that are the same. We're going to put those in pockets 3 and 4. And then grab the last rectangle. Let's trim this one at 6 and 3. And place these both in pockets 3 and 4. And then you have a little scrap again. Oops. For this one, we just need to trim it in half at 6 inches. Gather the 2 rectangles, pockets 7 and 8. And then we have these strips. So the 2 wider ones both go in 3 and 4. And the skinny one goes in 7 and 8. Take 1 sheet of the craft. You have 2. Just make sure you have 1. Let's trim at 10 1/2 and 6 1/4. Rotate the 6 1/4. Let's cut at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. Gather the 2 that are the same, 7 and 8. I almost get into a rhythm with this, right? The rectangle that just fell, we'll trim this at 6 and 3. The 2 rectangles here go in 7 and 8. And there is a tiny little scrap again that you made. We can put up with that level of scrap, I think. Okay, then this next strip here, this is the 4 1/4 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 11 1/4. 10 1/2 and 6 1/4. This larger piece and the square plus one of these little strips, it all goes in 7 and 8. And then there's another little piece, 3 and 4. Pick up the strip. This one goes in 7 and 8 without being trimmed. And we're on to our second sheet of craft. We'll cut at 10 3/4. 9 and 5 1/2. Now rotate the 5 1/2 inch piece. Cut at 11 1/4. 7 1/2. 3 3/4. Gather up the 3 rectangles. They're all the same. Pocket 5 and 6. And this little guy in 1 and 2. Take the next strip. This is 3 1/2 by 12. We'll cut at 9, 6, and 3. Take the 3-inch piece, rotate it so it's horizontal. Trim at 3 1/4 and 2 1/2. I know this seems a little crazy, but it has a purpose. This guy and this smaller piece that fell, but not the smallest, they both go in 5 and 6, and you have a really teeny tiny little piece. I regret to inform you, that's another scrap. And then you have 3 more rectangles the same. Pocket 5 and 6. You have 2 strips left, the wider one, 5 and 6, and then this smaller one, 7 and 8. Before we trim the Cutaparts into strips, I want you to remove everything from that mark on the outer corner. It's on all 4 corners to create a 12 by 12. So I'll place this in my trimmer here and bring that line up to what I can see of the blade. Make sure you don't go too far. And if you want, you can kind of go generous on this cut and then come and clean it up on the final rotation. So I'm going to rotate here, and I can see where this line reaches the blade, both at the top and the bottom of my print here. And I'm going to even have to correct a little bit to make it level. Now I can rest that level surface up to the top of my trimmer edge here. Find the marking at the blade, and slice. Here I should be able to just look left and find the 12-inch mark, and that should line up. And then one more rotation here at the 12. That's looking good. And now I have a series of little scraps here I can get rid of. Let's begin with the print, and the dots should be pretty close to the right edge here. We'll cut at 10 3/4, and then 10 1/4, 9 3/4, 8 1/4, 7 1/4, 5 1/4, lots of quarters here, 5 1/4, and 3 1/4. Okay, so this big 3 1/4 inch piece, plus the next one that fell that has the lines on it, plus the next one that fell that has the sentiment, all of them go in pocket 1 and 2. And then you have the brown strip, 7 and 8, the starfish strip, 5 and 6, 2 dotties, 3 and 4, and our last strip goes in 7 and 8. For this next one, we need to repeat that perimeter trim. So I'm just going to slide that back in there and do a shy cut. And I'm going to try to get as accurate as I can on this rotation, leveling the paper if necessary. And just go around all 4 edges here. You can pause me while you do that. With those edges removed, place the piece back in the trimmer so that this banner shape is on your right. And our first cut here is going to be at 10 1/2, 7 3/4, and 4. Notice how I'm letting everything just pile up without moving it as we trim. And then we'll strip this out, put the pieces in the pocket, take the next strip, and so on. Rotate so that the words "Life is Better Barefoot" are on the right. And our first cut here is at 10, and then 6. While this piece is still in the trimmer, if you want, you can clip its corners to turn it into a tag shape. And the margin between the printed line and the edge of your paper should match what it does on the other sides, if that makes any sense. So I'm just trying to leave some margin there and give it a nice straight cut. You could do that with scissors or a craft knife and cutting mat. This goes in pockets 7 and 8, as does this piece with the anchor, 7 and 8. And then we got another little tag here to snip. I just kind of like to do this because the trimmer does a nice straight job. And pocket 1 and 2. Our next strip here, we'll trim with the seashell, should be on the right for starters. At 9 1/4 is your first cut. 6 1/2, and 3 3/4. This piece goes in pocket 3 and 4. And then we have a tag shape that we can make with the anchor on it. I'll quick do that because we can. 3 and 4 also. And then our tag with the shell. I think that's a conch shell, I believe. And 5 and 6. And the last piece, 3 and 4. Okay, for this next strip, this is the 2 3/4 by 12. Make sure the blue is on the right, or the aqua rather. 9 3/4, 6 1/2, and 3 1/4. Gather the 3 shapes that are the same size. All 3 of these are. Oh, plus this one too, this aqua one. All 4 pieces from that strip go in pocket 5 and 6. Now this is where we're gonna have a little fun. Do you see all these little sentiments here at the bottom of this strip? Those are designed to fit perfectly onto the wood banner tags. The thing is, these needed to be 3/8 of an inch wide to fit on the tag. Quarter was kind of too small, a 1/2 inch was too big. So there we go. We have 3/8 inch increments to trim. This last one is a 1/2 inch increment. So if you know what size an 1/8 inch marking is on here, you can literally go 1, 2, 3. That puts us at 11 5/8. 1, 2, 3. That puts us at 11 1/4. 1, 2, 3. 10 7/8. 1, 2, 3. 10 1/2. 1, 2, 3. 10 1/8. 1, 2, 3. 9 3/4. And then we skip to 9 1/4. That's our last cut. So this piece goes in pocket 5 and 6. And then we have this mess to work out here. So the one that says date, pocket 5 and 6, you're going to have to make sure you really watch to make sure nothing got misplaced or lost in there. So relax, 3 and 4. Barefoot, 3 and 4. Sand and surf, 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter where these go. It's just sometimes people like to know exactly what I did. Seashells, 7 and 8. Vacation, 5 and 6. The beach, 7 and 8. That's the end of all of our trimming prep. So I can get rid of my trimmer and take this from underneath the trimmer base and then now lay it on its back. We'll assemble our pages kind of from layout number 8 going up to layout number 1. So number 1 will be on top after we've kind of done this dry fit phase without any adhesive. And then you can go on your own time frame from 1 to 8, finishing them by adhering everything and adding your own photos. So I've got that all planned out for you. That order is all queued up. Let's take the entire stack of remaining papers and then just grab the top sheet off of it. Okay, slide the top sheet over so that the white linen is on your right and the wave print, or the beach print rather, is on your left. So you got that little brown area in the lower left corner. This is the foundation for layouts 7 and 8, which you can see on the bottom of page 5 in your instructions. There's layouts 7 and 8. So what we see in the picture is what we're seeing on our workspace. Cool. That's when we know we've planned well. Okay, I'm taking everything out of pocket D, and there's a lot in there, being mindful that there are even those tiny little pieces. And what I find works the best is if I literally pick everything up off the work surface rather than trying to pick each individual piece up. It's just a little easier to deal out, and I kind of call this the deal, to deal out the pieces. I'm going to start out with this kind of wide strip here, and it should have a buddy that it can nest with that reads surf, sun, and sand. So make sure it's the right size, that it peeks out past it. And then to the right of it, we're going to add a little bit of a aqua strip. It's going to carry over the aqua color that we're using on the other side of the layout in kind of a nice way. We can add one of these teal mats right here, and then a larger craft mat. It's a little higher than the teal, and we're going to nest that with this tag piece. Horizontally on the left, I'm going to add 2 horizontal craft mats, and we should have some aqua that should fit right on top with that perfect reveal on all 4 sides. It's measured to do that. I'm going to move this up just a second to add our nested mat here. We'll begin with the ivory linen, and then the craft, and then the everyday should be a beach day. All 3 of these pieces nest, and then this can cover it. Perfect. Another large craft square is going to be placed up here and nested with when in doubt vacation. We have 2 craft rectangles. We're going to place them kind of vertically, slightly overlapped, and nest them with our 2 largest teal. Over here we have the strip. We'll nest it with one of these guys. Over on the right side we have another strip, from the print and we'll nest it. Above and below this, we're going to add 2 horizontal teal pieces. And over here, I'm going to finish with these 2 little squares. And then I have the word seashells that goes on the right. And then if you haven't misplaced it, you've got the beach going to the left. Now what you can do here with these little pieces is take scissors and add a little point to the short edge with scissors, and then it'll kind of match up with what's happening with the tag. You'll add some jute to the top of the tag and you can cut off the end if you want, or tuck it behind, or you could put one on each side and have it on a banner in the middle. However you want to do it. It's your own darn layout, right? Over here, this little space could house a picture, or if you wanted to, you can add the die cut pearlescent or the pearlescent laser cut anchor here on the right. This page also uses a set of 3 of the yellow seashell gems here. We're going to put 1 above the surf sand sun because we kind of want to draw the eye to that cute little quote there. I put 1 upside down, so 1 on each side, and then 1 over here highlighting the title on the left. Let's take a look at the finishing touches on this layout. This is layout number 8 now. So after attaching this, I cut a hole through this and through the photo mat that's nesting with this cut apart, cut the angles, added the jute, tied a little knot, and glued the knot in place on the tag. Here, added some jute. Now, what I want to mention is that you need to use the jute pretty sparingly so that you can have enough to go all through 8 layouts. Otherwise, add more of your own or wax linen thread or whatever you happen to have on hand. It just turned out that I was more liberal in my use of the jute, and I should have been more conservative to make it last to layout number 1. And here we have layout 7. Again, we have this, and I attached these gems with our bookbinding glue dispensed from a needle tipped applicator. Here again too, I just have a little bow tied onto that tag to draw the eye to it. I adhered this to the beach to the tag with bookbinding glue, and then same with the wood tag to the craft paper. I used bookbinding glue. You could use regular adhesive as well. To move on to pages 5 and 6, we'll pick up the base of 7, slide it over, pick up the next page, and that should cue us up for layouts 5 and 6 if we simply empty everything from the pocket labeled 5 and 6. And I will reach down in there and make sure I get my little tiny pieces. Try to keep track of those. Okay. Again, dealing from the hand because it just seems to work the best. I'll start out with our long strip here on the right, nested with our starfish border. That's really sweet. And we also have a long strip going through kind of the center on the left side, nested with this guy. 2 vertical ivory linen over here. Across the top, you should have a set of 3 rectangles that are the same size. So let's add those. 1, 2, 3. You can put photos in those spots, or you can nest them with various prompts. So here we have the Adirondack chairs. We've got a cute little sentiment. We have the starfish. That's a little journaling prompt there. And then there was the tiny little piece that had the word date on it. I used that here. Now on this side, across the top, we're going to add 2 vertical craft mats. And those will have a mate in the teal. Kind of nice, right? I like that look. And there should be a smaller piece of craft that nests perfectly with this sentiment, and that can go right here. Beneath, I'll add a horizontal craft with a ivory linen, the journaling prompt here. How about a wood banner tag with a vacation? I like it. 2 little horizontals. And maybe you don't want to put photos here, but it'd be a great spot for a little sunset photo. I take a lot of those on vacation, and then like I take 10, maybe I print 4 and I need 1. But so I take the other little sunsets, you know, from the distance and put them on those little pieces. Well, yeah, the vacation gets a little nesting guy, so you can put him on top of that. Over here, I used a big chunk of this ribbon to make a 3-part bow. I do have a ribbon basics video that covers how to make a 3-part bow. And here it is in all its glory. It's so pretty. So I cut a stretch that's the width here, made a loop, and then a second piece to loop around it. It's all taped at the back. And then I kind of glued it all on there with my ATG. Here you can see I used the jute. I threaded a loop onto each end of the wave charm here, and then wrapped the ends around to the back. Again, another opportunity to be conservative in your jute use so you have enough to go around, whereas I used a little too much. Then finish it off with the date. When you tilt photos, make sure your corners aren't touching the edges here. Notice they're slightly overlapping. The photo mats are, one is higher than the other, and there are no corners touching the edge. On the facing page, here we have the quote. I attached it with foam adhesive after punching a slot into the top. We do have a slot punch that we carry here that's really nice for helping accommodate ribbon. Just tie the ends around, or tape the ends rather, on the back. Added my jute again, nested it onto the craft, stapled a piece of the brown ribbon after folding it in half onto the tag here, and finished with one of those charms. In fact, I'll quick add that to my page plan, and that is layout 5 and 6. Now take the base of layout 5, pick it up and carefully slide it over, slide one more 12 by 12 over and stack it on here. That gives us the base for 3 and 4. So you have to go back a page in your instructions. We're going in reverse, and here's my map, my road map of assembly. I'm currently indulging myself in doing a puzzle on my kitchen table, which I'm trying to get done, and all that's left is the hard trees. But I use the box is my cue, right? My cue card is the puzzle box. So think of your instructions as your puzzle box, and these are the puzzle pieces, except this puzzle doesn't have to be broken back apart again and put back into a box. You can add your photos and enjoy it. So if you like puzzles, I bet you do kind of like this method. I sure do love it. Okay, here we are. I'll take the beachy portion, and that's going to go left flush, the bottom left corner. The other torn piece goes flush at the top. Nice way to spread that portion of the print out. And how about we take these 3 pieces that are the same, 1, 2, 3. And if you want to make it so it looks like they were in a row, you could arrange them however you wish. Beneath it, you can add a nested aqua piece. So you got the aqua and then you got the dots. Vertically, you're going to have an ivory linen here. Let's move on to the other side for a second. I'm going to take the other larger aqua mat, then an aqua strip, and the aqua dots, or the dots rather, and another aqua mat. Now you've got some teal here. You've got the big square, then you have a rectangle and another rectangle. So square, rectangle, rectangle, and I got one rectangle sort of sitting on top of the border strip. That's kind of by design or for balance. Now this guy with the shells goes in the middle, the brown sentiment goes at the top, and the journaling tag, you can clip the corners of this, and that's going to go on the bottom. The other 2 aqua carries over the color, right, from one page to the other, at an angle in the lower left corner. This can be used, and this can be used to anchor one of our little banner tags, and we have relax on the left, barefoot on the right. There is one more die cut anchor here, and you can slide that under. You can even do it so it kind of the top circle of the anchor is sitting on one of the circles on the strip, and then lay that over the top of it. Finishing touches. Here we go. Oh, we've got a shell, and we have a charm. All kinds of fun things happening here. So here is my barefoot. I did the same V shape on all of those little pieces and trim the end to fit. So some of your pieces are going to be too long. You can keep the portion, or you can cut it to size. The jute was used to connect this from the right edge and left edge. Just make a little loop, run it through, just like a luggage tag, and then you can suspend the charm there, adding your little shell here, using the slot punch to create a way for that beautiful brown cotton ribbon to shine. Again, taping the ends at the back. Oh, I did also tuck this photo mat underneath the torn edge You can go, if you have a photo that you don't want to lose anything off the top, just put it on top of the whole thing. On the left side, here you can see how sweet this turned out with this trimmed, topped with jute, and then I hung the anchor right off the dots. Used my ruler, of course, for even spacing on the top 3 images. Moving right along, we're taking the top sheet of page 3 and sliding it over. Move the yellow for the base of page 2 to the right. And again, here's our puzzle box. We look at the top, grab your stuff out of pocket A. Fabulous. That empties the entire package. Now, across the top, there's going to be several different sizes here. We got the smaller of the sizes of teal, and you'll know they're the correct ones because they'll fit an even row across the page. And then you have this piece torn on both edges. You can place that kind of artfully. If you want to just cover the bottom edge of that, that would be really cool. On the left side, we're going to take the straight edge piece here, and the other torn piece, the straight edge will be kind of just off the edge of the bottom. Let a little of that yellow show through if you like. You can also take this strip that has the sentiment on it and place it on the right side. The other strip with the journaling prompt goes on the left with the journaling on the left. This big border strip will sit on top of the print, kind of about 1/4 inch from the top edge. Right here we have a ivory linen mat and then 2 overlapping teal happening here. Your tag, your strip to accommodate your final wood, and then your sand and surf. The wave charm, placed it here. The final star charm I placed over on the top of the life tag. There's one more spot that has the wave charm that I forgot to mention to you, I think. Oh yeah, I believe that was at the top of pages 5 and 6. So don't forget to use this guy as indicated in the instructions. It goes on the upper right cut apart on layouts 5 and 6. So that's an advantage to doing this dry fit. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the paper for layout 6, so I can sneak that charm right in there. That's what you do. If you kind of miss a piece, you're like, oh, I see where that goes. You can go back, count it off, and add it. I'll place this on top of here and show you the finishing touches. Here I tore this from a different direction, so I had more white showing. That's pretty cool. I ran out of jute, so I just left it off of this tag. Oh, and I added a nice long strip of that cotton ribbon, just glued the charm directly to the page with our bookbinding glue. It works so well for metal on paper. If you don't already have our bookbinding glue, make sure you stock up on that. Here I just cut the slot again with our slot punch. This is what it looks like in case you don't have one. It's pretty handy and it's really heavy duty. It'll cut through mat board and yeah, and paper as well. And then you just loop the cotton through it, and I hid the ends behind the big strip up here. They don't run around to the back. Here I had to use some wax linen, but you could have also used jute to suspend your starfish again. Notice my 2 photo mats here aren't touching any edges, and the corners, you know, they're at different heights and slightly overlapped. That's the way you kind of avoid having a bad looking tangent. Now you'll notice too in the instructions there are little numbers over all of these pieces, and that's the size the photo would need to be trimmed to fit on top of that mat with a perfect margin. A lot of times people just bring their photo to the page and then they like, just shave a little off of here and a little off of there, and it's all cattywampus and doesn't match on the corners. If you want them to match, or if you like care a little bit, you can trim it to these measurements. If you want, you can take a Post-it note or a pencil and write the measurement onto the mat so that you don't even need to have your instructions anymore to finish your pages, but you have all the information you need. I think this is probably a record for a remix. We did a great job kind of blowing through that. If it felt really fast to you, maybe it's because you're new and everything about this is new to you. That's okay. Just pause as needed. You know, I'm going back and learning some new step aerobics routines. And the first time I run through the video, I'm like an octopus with, you know, all left feet. I'm a mess. But the third time I watch the video, I can keep up with all the moves. That'll be you. The more experience you get with our method, the more quickly you'll be able to move along, and pretty soon you'll be waiting for me. So stick with it, especially if you're new, and I look forward to seeing you in another Club Scrap workshop soon. Thanks for joining me.